Good evening. It is Monday, October the 26th, 2020. It is 7 p.m. I'm David Lindsay, President of the Speedway Town Council, and I call our meeting to order this evening. This is our second meeting for the month of October, and joining me this evening to my immediate right is our Councilor Eileen Fisher.
Good evening.
To my immediate left, Councilor Gary Rakes.
Good evening.
To his left, Councilor Gary Pettigo.
Good evening.
And social distancing in the audience with us is our Town Manager, Carlos May. Our Clerk Treasurer, Jacob Blaisdell. I was waiting for them to say hello. And our Town Attorney, Bob Clutter. Our agenda has been posted, which we are going to call the Clerk Treasurer meeting this evening. Is all mostly budget related. And our agenda has been posted, which we will follow this evening. The first item on the agenda is our Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone would please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 2 on our agenda is approval of the minutes of our October 12th meeting, which have been distributed to the council. Are there any corrections? Hearing none, those will be accepted as presented. Item 3 through 6 are related to our budget. Item 3 is Ordinance 1331, which is a second reading for the approval of the 2021 budget for the Civil Town of Speedway. We had our first reading of this at our first meeting in October. And Jacob, if you just want to kind of briefly discuss items 3 through 6, that way you don't have to come up and describe every one of them for us. You can just kind of briefly
Summarize
tell
it all.
us why we're here. And
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Mr. President. So kind of a quick recap as far as how we kind of got to where we are today. We held public budget meetings on August 12th and 13th with the department heads and different agencies, as well as the groups with the separate budgets, so schools, transportation, and the library. Notice to taxpayers on all the budgets went through the state's gateway system on October 1st, which met the requirement for that notice to be posted 10 days prior to the budget hearing, which we held at our last council meeting here on October 12th. As you mentioned, council passed the budget on first reading, and tonight all the budgets are now up for second reading, pending your approval. And if you have any questions, or do you want me to go through kind of the same analysis that I did last time, or it's kind of on the record, just want to keep it there?
no, it's fine. I think we're on the record from our last meeting, so that's fine.
You sure? I mean, I can talk about. I'm just kidding.
If you insist.
So it is a $16.3 million budget, and as we discussed, we're very mindful of future and some of the uncertainty that we might see in revenue. So we're being pretty cautious with it. We do have an increase in the police budget, and we're looking at a decrease at the street department. If there are any questions or any details, I also mentioned that we have Tim Berry here with Crow, the firm that's helped us through the process. Although Tim is a great guy, we'll mention that Angie Stino did a lot of the work helping us through this process, as she has done in the past. She couldn't join us tonight, though. That's all I have.
President Lindsay, I move that we approve ordinance number 1331 on second reading.
I second.
There's been a motion and a second to approve ordinance 1331 on second reading. Is there any questions or comments from the public? Hearing none, any questions or comments from the council?
Jacob, I do have a question for you, just to make sure it's on the record. And maybe you said this in your long presentation, but I didn't remember it. In any of these items, 3 through 6, have there been any changes since our first reading?
No, there are no changes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? We will then call for the vote. All those in favor of approving ordinance 1331 on second reading signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 4-0. Item 4 on our agenda is ordinance 1332, which is a second reading for approval of the 2021 budget for the school town of Speedway. And again, this was presented to us at our first meeting of the month. We'll then call for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that we approve ordinance 1332, which is a 2021 budget for our school, Town of Speedway, second reading.
I second.
Been a motion and a second to approve ordinance 1332 on second reading this evening. Any questions or comments from the public? Questions or comments from the council? Hearing none, we'll then call for the vote. All those in favor of approving ordinance 1332 on second reading signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 4-0. Item 5 on our agenda is ordinance 1333, which is second reading of approval of the 2021 budget for the Speedway Public Library. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. President, I move that we approve ordinance 1333, approval for 2021 Speedway Public Library, second reading.
Second the motion.
Been a motion and a second to approve ordinance 1333 on second reading. Any questions or comments from the public? Questions or comments from the council? We'd like to thank our members of our library board. They're here this evening with us, and our library director as well. Thank you. Hearing none, we'll then call for the vote. All those in favor of approving ordinance 1333 on second reading signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 4-0. Item 6 on our agenda is ordinance 1334, which is approval of the 2021 budget for the Speedway Public Transportation on second reading.
Mr. President, I move that we approve ordinance number 1334 for the 2021 budget regarding the Speedway Public Transportation Board.
Second?
There's been a motion and a second to approve ordinance 1333 on second reading this evening. Any questions or comments from the getting all out of order here. Questions or comments from the audience? Questions or comments from the council? Hearing none, we'll then call for the vote. All those in favor of approving ordinance 1334 on second reading this evening signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 4-0. Item 7 is with council's concurrence. We will move that to our next meeting, at the first meeting in November.
I agree.
Okay.
Agreed.
Item 8 is approval of claims and utility adjustments from our clerk treasurer this evening. Jacob?
I'm back. Presented to you for your approval and review are claims representing payments made October 3rd through October 23rd, and I'll take any questions or would appreciate your approval.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the claims as presented.
Second.
Been a motion and a second to approve the claims as presented for October 3rd, 2020 through October 23rd, 2020. Any questions from the public? Questions or comments from the council? Hearing none, we'll then call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the claims as presented signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carries 4-0. Jacob?
No utility adjustments this evening, and as far as report, just again, as I mentioned last meeting, appreciate all the coordination from the department heads, Carlos, and then the different groups, schools, library, and transportation. There's a lot of coordination that goes on behind the scenes, getting things loaded into the state system, making them happy, and getting everything uploaded. So appreciate everyone's work and help, particularly in a challenging year that had some pivots and adjustments as we have tried to plan as best we can. And then the only other item I have in my report is some good news. We were able last week to reprice the sewer bonds. We have about $17.5 million of sewer bonds outstanding. We were able to reprice those, take advantage of low interest rates. They were at already pretty good rate, 3.31%, but we got them down to 1.29%. Really great rates. It's going to save us over $1 million in interest costs over the next 13 years. And the interest rates are good, but the credit rating environment's a little bit challenging, just in terms of the rating agencies wondering what's going to happen in the future and being kind of tough and asking extra due diligence questions. We had a lot of great support from Norm Berry, our sewer superintendent. He did a great job answering the questions, and then Angie Reynolds in my office provided a lot of financial and accounting information that we needed to get that done. So great team effort, great result, and that's all I have to report.
Thank you for that.
Jacob.
Item 9 is a report from our town manager, Carlos May.
Thank you, Mr. President. Nothing major has developed in the past 2 weeks. Everything is kind of moving smoothly. We're still working on the new town hall, and nothing's been delayed there, so progress is still going well. Founders Square is seeing some traction. Concrete has been poured. The retention pond finally got to be used for something since we had all the rain. So that was nice. It worked well. Other than that, the only thing I'd really like to bring to the attention of the public, because I've had numerous inquiries for the past couple of days related to voting. So within Speedway, it's going to be the town hall where we are currently, as well as the high school are the two voting locations inside of Speedway. But just so that everyone watching at home and in the audience understands, you can vote anywhere. So if you work on the north side of town, you can stop there. If you're on the south side of Indianapolis, you can vote there. But within Speedway, I just want everybody to know, apparently there were rumors going around that there were no voting locations within Speedway. We have two, the town hall, as well as the high school. Other than that, everything is going well, unless you have any questions.
Thanks for that, Carlos. I just would add, a lot of folks in Speedway think of John Knox Church there at 30th and High School as part of Speedway because so many residents attend there, and there is voting at that location. Actually, most of Meadowood votes in
That is just outside of Speedway, so that's why I was referencing it.
Understood. So just add that to the folks here.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, Council.
Thank you. Next is report from our council members. We will begin with Councilor Gary Pettigo.
And to kind of tag team on your comments, Carlos, and Gary, yours as well. There's actually a fourth location very close to Speedway that was just added here recently, and that's the Thatcher Community Center on West Vermont Street. So not in Speedway, but fairly close, especially to residents of Old Speedway. Election day is one week away, a week from tomorrow. Early voting has been crazy. I talked to some people earlier today that said they had waited over at Thatcher up to 8 hours, an 8-hour wait to cast their vote. So it's great that people are getting out and voting. Early voting continues through, I think, through next Sunday. So you've got on the west side just Cranert. City County building, of course, and then there's some other locations throughout Marion County. But whatever you do, whether you get out to early vote or you turn out on election day, please turn out, cast your vote. That's the most important thing. And hopefully, as we go along here through the end of this week, the waits will begin to get a little bit shorter. Beyond that, still need poll workers too, right, Gary? Any place, anywhere, I think there's not a location anywhere that couldn't use some help. And as always, make sure you're shopping in Speedway and buy in Speedway. That's it.
Great, thank you. Next is Councilor Gary Rakes.
I'll just add one more comment to the issue of the election next week. Just to be clear to the residents of Speedway and businesses of Speedway, the town of Speedway did not choose to have less voting sites this election or even in June when we had none as part of the primary. That was a decision made by a bipartisan committee, actually the election board that's part of Marion County. And so we had really no input in that. And so I know myself and other councilors and other leaders in town certainly would prefer to have the larger number of sites that we once did. On a countywide basis, the number went from approximately 300 down to 200 throughout the entire county. So a little less than 200 actually. So just want to make sure that the public knows that the town would prefer, those leaders in the town would prefer to see more sites, shorter waits, et cetera, but it wasn't really our choice. I'd just like to echo thoughts of others for just a nice job by so many folks on our staff and other volunteers in town on different boards, commissions regarding the budget. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago at the first reading. I don't know exactly how many hours were put into this by all different man hours by all the different groups, but I'm going to guess it's hundreds, if not thousands of hours if you start totaling up the number of folks. So thank you for that effort. Halloween is the 31st. It is going to happen here in Speedway. There are questions about that. We just certainly, as always, encourage folks to turn your light on if you want to participate. and be smart about wearing masks, both as we're taking our children around to do trick or treat, as well as if we're dispensing candy, be smart about that it be wrapped candy, that it be maybe even use gloves, or let the kids reach into a bucket or whatever it might be to grab the candy, and that you wear a mask as well. So with that, that's all I have.
Great. Thank you, Gary. Our next is Councilor Eileen Fisher.
Well, I think everyone has covered the voting and everything else, so I have nothing else tonight.
Great, thank you. And the final item on our agenda is my report. My only thing is to be sure and support our Speedway businesses. And one additional thing I'd like to mention is we have board and commission appointments that are upcoming. We usually start that in December, but I think now is a good time to mention. If you are interested in serving in a board or commission, please visit our website, or if you have questions, reach out to your counselor or to Carlos's office. We can get you directed. There's a form that can be filled out. We have a lot of great boards that do a lot of good work for the town. And if you'd like to get involved, that's one of the best ways to get involved here in town. So with that, I will adjourn the meeting at 7:16.